Good evening. If you're joining us right now, it's time for the Daily Report, and a little bit later on, time for Insight Tonight. My name is Victor Muyakane, and on sign language with me this evening is none other than the great Rhoda Nyamai. Once again, thank you for choosing us to inform you this evening, and we have a lot in store for you, including a conversation on Insight that you don't want to miss. It's absolutely riveting and earth-shaking, I assure you. But without further ado, the highlights. Opposition leaders cite concerns over the budget policy statement, citing an increase of punitive taxes.
If the BPS is anything to go by, Kenyans must be ready to tighten their belts because KK regime is coming after them in a second wave of taxes.
Controversial televangelist David Kariuki Ngare, also known as Gakuyo, to remain in police custody overnight.
The investigators are at advanced stage, and the respondent is likely to be charged in several cases involving over 50,000.
And good news, as the National Authority for Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, reports significant progress in Kenya's battle against drug and substance abuse.
So that tells us that as much as people would want to say everybody's using drugs, the youth are using drugs. The other fact is, majority of Kenyans, including youths, are not using drugs.
Welcome once again, and the news begins now. Athletes, along with family members and friends, earlier today assembled at the Eldoret Hospital morgue to pick the remains of the late Kelvin Kiptum, the world marathon record holder who was laid at that facility. The body journeyed approximately 80 kilometers from Eldoret town to Iten town, ultimately reaching his parents' residence in Kipsamo village in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Our reporter Duncan Mutua is live there. Duncan. Now, Duncan is getting ready. We're going to bring you that story live and direct from there. But first, let's go to the courts, where preacher David Gakuyo Ngare, implicated in the defrauding of over 50,000 members of the Ekeza Sacco of over 1 billion shillings, will spend the night in custody pending a ruling from the court on his release on bail. He has 4 charges against him, including obtaining money through false pretense and conspiracy to commit a felony.
David Gakuyo Ngare Thursday was arraigned at the Milimani Law Courts before Senior Principal Magistrate Geoffrey Onsarigo. He has 4 charges leveled against him, that of conspiracy to commit a felony, obtaining money through false pretense, stealing and money laundering.
The investigators are at advanced stage, and the respondent is likely to be charged in several cases involving over 50,000. Victims spread across the Republic of Kenya.
The Directorate of Criminal Investigation today sought to have him detained for a period of 4 days to investigate him and the companies associated with him. This including the Ekeza Sacco Society Limited, Gakuyo Real Estate and the Gakuyo Investors Club. Gakuyo was intercepted at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Wednesday while en route to Zambia, and so the prosecution side has deemed him a flight risk and might interfere with witnesses.
There is no evidence that has come from the dock that our client has interfered with the investigations. The evidence from the investigating officer, Yona, proves that he has been cooperative and he has not taken any act that may hinder the works of the investigators.
Senior Principal Magistrate Geoffrey Onsarigo will tomorrow rule on whether to detain or release Gakuyo on bail. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
Now, once again, to the top story of this day. Athletes, along with family members and friends, earlier today assembled at the Eldoret Hospital morgue to pick the remains of Kelvin Kiptum, the world marathon record holder. The body journeyed approximately 80 kilometers from Eldoret town to Iten town, ultimately reaching his parents' residence in Kipsamo village. Our reporter, Joseph Kabudi, is on the ground, live and direct. Joseph, how are you doing? And could you tell us what's going on where you are? What can you see? What can you hear? Who do you see? And what are they saying?
Here in Kipsamo, we are here in Kipsamo. It's quite a chilly evening in Kipsamo village where Kevin Kiptum's body is being resting the whole day, the whole night, sorry. And is expected to be buried tomorrow at his place in Liberia. And as you can see, our residents are still here trying to go to view his body. You can see even the hearse that he used during the day to go to Elgeyo Marakwet County. And as we know that here in Kipsamo village, it is in Elgeyo Marakwet County, but where he'll be buried is in Uasin-Gishu County. Where we are at the moment is his father's place where his body is resting. And tomorrow, as we all know, the mass will be at Chepkorio Showground, and his body will be up to Liberia, where he will be given his final send-off. President Ruto is expected tomorrow as well, and what we can see is that due to the strong winds that were witnessed today here in Eldoret, we knew that there are so many. Even right now, we are really freezing, and those winds they prompted the organizers to move the place where he was going to be buried up to here in Chepkorio. So where we are right now is Chepsamo, but tomorrow we will be in Chepkorio, which is just a few miles down the road. As we know, Kevin Kiptum was the world record marathon holder, and he died last week on Sunday. And maybe we'll be here taking part through all this, and we will let you know tomorrow. Back to you, studio. Thank you.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue. Mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom.
Thank you once again for joining us. We apologize for the slight technical problem in the previous story, but we appreciate you staying with us. In other news, 3 gold miners have been confirmed dead after a gold mine collapsed late yesterday in Chanda village, Wamuluma location in Vihiga County. During the tragic incident, 4 men got trapped inside the gold mine tunnels, and initial efforts by the residents led to the rescuing of just 1 miner. However, the day-long efforts to rescue the other 3 could not bear fruit, as their bodies have now been retrieved this evening from the collapsed gold mine. Our reporter, Arnold Adidi, tells us more.
It is a sad moment for residents of Chanda village in Wamuluma location here in Vihiga County following the tragic incident that has claimed 3 lives of local gold miners. According to the residents, the 4 got trapped under huge heaps of sand following the collapse, making it difficult for initial rescue efforts by locals to yield much.
Pilika zangu za kupita nikasikia jamaa anapiga hapo nduru. Mimi nikashtuka kuangalia ndani nikapata mshangao umemwangukia. Hivyo mimi nikaingia ndani nikambeba nikamweka hapo kwa stand hapo ili mwingine wamsaidie. Sasa ikabidi ile tractor ikasaidia haraka hapo, lakini hawakufaulu kuwatoa wale.
1 body was retrieved today at midday and 2 other bodies have been found this evening. The families of the deceased unable to bear the sad news.
Na huyo Pati ndio nguzo yangu. Nikiita Pati achelewangi kukuja. Hata hiyo mradi yenye alikuwa amenipangia anijengee nyumba, acha huyu mtoto alikuwa anataka kunijengea.
Vihiga County Commissioner Felix Watakila led the rescue efforts in collaboration with officers from the county government. The county commissioner expressing the need to streamline operations under artisanal mining in the country.
Tuone ya kwamba tunatii masharti fulani ili tuwezeshe sisi tuepukane na maafa au changa kama ili tumepata.
However, locals here have refuted the call to suspend operations within unlicensed gold mines to allow for inspection of safety measures. According to the residents, a viable alternative must be provided for them before such a move is even proposed.
Serikali kitu inaweza tusaidia ni tuletee vifaa vya kutosha kufanya hii kazi. Nijaribu kuangalia usalama pia.
Bodies of the deceased have been taken to Vihiga County Funeral Home while the rescued miner has been discharged from hospital. Arnold Adidi, TV47, Vihiga.
In other news, the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, also known as NACADA, now says that Kenya has made tremendous strides in the fight against drug and substance abuse, as more than 20 million Kenyans have never used any type of drugs. And this, of course, as Elizabeth Atieno now tells us, NACADA chair says is supported by Governor Waiguru and rather a directive. I beg your pardon, good people. This is attributed to the current efforts by the government towards this. NACADA chair has supported Governor Waiguru's directive for the closure of all bars in Kirinyaga. Take a look.
As the country intensifies the fight against drug and substance abuse, it has now emerged that 22 million Kenyans aged 15 to 65 have never used drugs. This is according to the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA.
And so that tells us that as much as people would want to say everybody's using drugs, the youth are using drugs, the other fact is majority of Kenyans, including youths, are not using drugs.
17.5% or 4.7 million of Kenyans within that age range are using at least one substance of abuse. The male gender accounts for 3.7 million compared to their female counterparts at 949,298.
The effects have been very high, and that's why we've been talking about Central Kenya, but actually the leading region right now is Western Kenya.
3.2 million Kenyans are using alcohol, the main challenge being the use of illicit brew, not forgetting the recent incident in Kangai village, Kirinyaga County, where 17 people lost their lives after consuming illicit liquor. NACADA has now reiterated the need for counties to follow the due legal process in the licensing of bars so as to avert any similar occurrence in future.
In 2010, the law was changed. So some of the big role actually in drug prevention went to the counties. And unfortunately, this has not been done well. Some of the counties have done that just for getting revenue.
NACADA chairman Stephen Mairori has supported Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru's directive ordering for the closure of all bars in the county to pave way for a fresh vetting process. Mairori has urged other counties to follow suit.
I think it's the first step first, so that we can vet to see who are doing the right, who are selling the right alcohol.
On Thursday, NACADA officially launched the National Prevention Week Summit at the Bomas of Kenya in Nairobi so as to recognize the efforts made by recovering addicts. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, residents of Bomet County have today held demonstrations against the Bomet County Governor Hilary Barchok over what they say is poor leadership for the period he's been in office. The residents, led by a section of members of the County Assembly, complained of not getting better services and development. This is despite contributing taxes, and they now want the EACC to investigate their governor.
It all started as a peaceful protest during midday Thursday. Few minutes later, the situation in Bomet County became out of control. Protesters who turned out in large numbers went full throttle in the streets of the town, demanding better services from Governor Hilary Barchok. At this point, police officers were forced to lob tear gas canisters to disperse the protesters. The governor is now under sharp scrutiny, with protesters saying that 17 months down the line, since the Kenya Kwanza government took power, no development has taken place in the area, despite them paying taxes as required.
Non-payment of the casual laborers. The second issue was the non-payment of the ECD teachers. Thirdly was the poor red networks across the county of Bomet. Fourthly was the harassment of the media personnel, who have always been giving us the live coverage across the county government.
Tumetenga pesa katika department yote yenye ilidevolviwa hapa county ya Bomet, lakini hakuna kazi imefanywa hata moja.
According to residents, a number of grievances have been advanced at the county level, but no action has been taken so far. Members of the county assembly who are supposed to keep the county executive in check are reading from the same script as the governor.
We are sitting today, governor serving his second term, and I want to tell the governor, the people of Bomet knew that you were going for your second term, and they knew that you are not going to vie for governorship again. But then what you have given us is not what we expected from you.
One of the big issues on the table is the one on pending bills which are alleged to have risen to a tune of 1.2 billion shillings. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, you will remember on Tuesday we had a conversation on the revenue share, county revenue share. This is a conversation we had on the People's Court. I'd urge you to go back and go on YouTube and search for that conversation on the People's Court on Tuesday for a comprehensive conversation. But there's an update to that conversation, and here we go. The Council of Governors has proposed an increase to the county's revenue share to 450 billion shillings from the current 385 billion, which the governors received of course urging the Senate to fight for more funds to be taken to the counties as it is within their mandate to champion for devolution. Speaking while appearing before the Senate Finance and Budget Committee for the budget policy statement presentations and led by their chairperson, Anne Waiguru, the governor of Kirinyaga, the governors insist that the country's GDP has grown over time and therefore it would be ideal to channel more funds to propel devolution.
Projected allocation to counties for the financial year 2024-2025 has been revised downwards.
Kenyans woke up one morning and decided that they wanted devolution. They were saying they were sick and tired of a centralized system.
In fact, for us, we were very surprised last time when for the first time the Senate did not defend increased allocations to counties. I think you have seen for yourselves what is happening in our counties. I really sympathize with my colleagues. Some counties even have not been able, to pay salaries for some time.
Counties cannot perform those functions unless the Senate does its part in its budget policy statement, which is a policy statement. It lays the framework for division of revenue so that the counties can deliver services as constitutionally provided.
That is not enough even for salary increment, leave alone the other expenditures we've talked about. Of interest to us, Chair, and the senators, is that some of the functions that are being done by the national government will be an extra load to the counties.
Where in another 5 years, we probably will find ourselves without counties. And we are really, really struggling.
In other news, as calls to support ODM leader Raila Odinga's bid for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission, these calls, as they come in and as they grow, the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, has been challenged to come clean over allegations that he is opposed to Odinga's bid. GEM Member of Parliament Elisha Ochieng has mentioned reports going round social media alleging that former President Kenyatta is rooting for a former president from a neighboring country to clinch the seat. Elsewhere, legislators both from the ruling party and the opposition who attended a burial ceremony in Narok County have openly supported Raila Odinga's chairman bid.
Legislators from Narok, both from the ruling party and in the opposition, have openly supported Raila Odinga's AU Commission chairmanship and African politics as a whole.
Tulikuja tukakaa pamoja, tukasema tunaweza namna gani kuhakikisha ya kwamba tunafanya kazi pamoja.
ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, who also attended the burial, however, said that even though Raila will not be involved in Kenyan politics, he will be active in party ongoings.
Masaa ambaye nachukua mtu kutoka Nairobi na barabara kufika hapa Narok ni the same na ndege inatoka Addis Ababa kufika Nairobi. Hakuna mahali baba ameenda.
Elsewhere, GEM Member of Parliament Elisha Ochieng Odhiambo now wants former President Uhuru Kenyatta to make a clear stand on whether he does or does not support the Azimio leader's AU Commission chairmanship bid.
I want to challenge the former President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. I have seen indication in social media that he is supporting Jakaya Kikwete for OAU chairperson. I think that's a wrong decision, is wrong direction.
Odinga announced his chairmanship bid, which was well received by a number of players in the political arena, including former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Students from more than 25 universities and colleges today gathered at the Mount Kenya University for the second edition of the Tech and Innovation Summit, whose theme was Technology-Driven Innovation for Sustainable Living. The university hosted a forum where the youth were given an opportunity to present their entrepreneurship ideas. Kisewa Emery with the details.
The Economic Students Association of Kenya today held the second edition of the Technology and Innovation Summit at Mount Kenya University, where students were encouraged to present their projects to a panel of judges.
Actually, my friend mentioned about the integration of internet.
with the hopes of investments in their entrepreneurship ideas.
Having the partners and they are able to support us to make our ideas become a reality. Isn't that what we want? Because we will not be seeking, we will be doing our business now will become, it will move from the stage of being a business idea to become a business.
Just last year, 4 projects that were presented before a panel of judges were invested in and are currently functioning businesses.
So far, we have a number of projects that happened that were presented in the last summit, and out of them, 4 were funded, and today we have companies that have grown.
Lecturers from Mount Kenya University expressed their enthusiasm and glee for hosting the event while uplifting the youth to transform their ideas from the classroom to the real world.
But today we are proud that we have brought all these minds together. We have been able to hold very high-profile delegation from the Ministry of Education, UNESCO and others, the High Commission of Pakistani, and they have all been here and they are here to hear what our great ideas are.
The young generation are very good in digital innovation. And now what we are trying to do as an academic institution is to help them to understand where the digital technology can be able to assist livelihoods. And so as we look at the kind of innovations that the students are giving, we are very excited.
Students are also excited at the chance to be given an opportunity and a platform to present their ideas, as well as provide room to network with their peers.
The Tech and Innovation Summit is an idea choreographed or crafted to bridge the gap between classroom and what is there on the corporate. So we have 32 institutions as our members, and so for the 32 institutions, every institution comes up with a project that is geared towards solving the solution according to the theme. Our theme this year is tech-driven innovation for sustainable living, and we are attempting to solve the cost of living and unemployment.
In a day and age when the youth are stuck without jobs, the emphasis is being put on them to create these jobs rather than to seek for them. Kisewa Emory reporting for TV47 at Mount Kenya University, Thika.
Right, as the youth face off towards a technologically filled future, tonight the opposition Azimio coalition has warned Kenyans to brace for more taxes in the coming financial year as the government seeks to raise more revenue to meet its debt and spending obligations, according to Azimio. Of course, according to Azimio, hard-to-tax sectors will be hit hard, leaving hustlers vulnerable to the whims of the Controller of Budget. The same Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, in a sitting with MPs, warned of increasing taxes that it will not fix revenues. Apollo Kamau reports.
The National Treasury Budget Policy Statement, currently before Parliament, is in the eye of the storm after the opposition Azimio termed it as punitive in its budget projection guidelines in the coming financial year. According to Azimio principles led by Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, the hardest to tax sectors will be the hardest hit, among them the Jua Kali sector, agriculture and the digital economy.
If the BPS is anything to go by, Kenyans must be ready to tighten their belts because KK regime is coming after them in a second wave of taxes.
According to the 2024 budget policy statement, the government plans to raise 2.95 trillion shillings from taxes, an additional 323.5 billion shillings compared to the current financial year. The Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, told the MPs the government is unlikely to meet its revenue projections from taxes due to excessive borrowing.
Unless we limit government borrowing, increasing the scope of tax will not increase revenue beyond the optimal point. This is because government borrowing mops out what could have been used for private sector investments. Economic growth is achievable without exerting too much pressure on the existing tax regime.
Between July and December last year, Kenya Revenue Authority collected 1.09 trillion shillings, despite the Finance Act 2023 coming into effect. From a target of 2.62 in tax revenues, KRA missed its target by 182.6 billion shillings.
If this trend continues, it is projected that the government will end up spending well over 800 billion on debt interest expense by the end of this financial year.
Despite warnings from the control of the budget for surpassing the debt limit of 55% to the gross domestic product, the government now plans to borrow 753.2 billion shillings from domestic and foreign investors in the coming financial year. Kenya's current debt stands at 11.2 trillion shillings. Apol Kamau, TV47.
And on that note, we wish to take a short breather. When we come back, we will have more to offer you. Please keep it right here on TV47, the home of untold stories.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue. Mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Welcome back. If you're joining us right now, this is TV47 Daily Report with me, Victor Muyakane, and Rhoda Nyamai on sign language. In other news, Kenya has become one of the global dumping grounds for heavy-duty vehicles and trucks. This may derail the transition to EVs, that is electric vehicles, in the country from the current 10 years to indefinitely. This is according to the Director of Transport, Policy and Planning for the Northern Corridor, Emmanuel Imaniranzi, who says that despite the policy barring vehicles older than 8 years from entering the country, individuals still find loopholes through neighboring states, presenting an unending stream of carbon emitters. Hibak Saeed with a report.
As the 6th session of the United Nations Environmental Assembly kicks off in the country, experts and policymakers convene to pinpoint the possible end to the use of one of the largest carbon emitters in the global south, heavy-duty trucks that are cheap and easily accessible, especially for moving cargo in between countries.
The size of these heavy commercial trucks we have currently,
which is approximately between 12,000 and 15,000. Now, in 2018, we did an inventory survey. We wanted to quantify emissions along the corridor and also try to see how other vehicles contribute towards our member states, across our member states. So what we saw is that between 48 and 55, actually close to 60% of emissions that were quantified among our member states. The corridors alone, we are contributing between 48 and 60% of emissions.
The largest sources of this climate hazard has been narrowed down to Japan, Korea, and the European Union. 3 sources that are, ironically, transitioning to safe and cleaner transport options.
We know where they're coming from. Why don't we stop them at source? Well, of course, we have to realize that a country like Kenya depends on its vehicles from imports. And in Kenya, 97% of the vehicles in Kenya are used vehicles. So Kenya needs those used vehicles. It doesn't produce new vehicles. It needs those used vehicles to continue growing.
The global price reduction of used heavy-duty vehicles is resulting from the global adoption of its electric counterpart, as governments continue to find ways to encourage transporters to make more eco-friendly options, Kenya being one of them.
There's huge health impacts that come from those emissions. So here we have the air quality aspect, but black carbon is also driving climate change. And the more we hit the urgency, and well, only a couple of weeks ago, we heard scientists coming out with estimations that there's a 66% likelihood that we will hit the 1.5 threshold.
Now the UNEA Council is advocating for blanket policies regulating the importation of the growing menace in African countries, to force the global north to adopt other ways of disposing of used and old vehicles.
What did we find, as Rob said, a situation where you have unroadworthy vehicles that are very substandard coming into the markets, and countries that are actually building a local manufacturing capability are being outcompeted by some of these imports of unroadworthy used vehicles.
The influx of heavy-duty second-hand vehicles is making the zero-carbon emission dream even further. This as policymakers are being urged to tighten regulations to ensure that electric vehicles are the #1 choice, especially for people who are buying new vehicles. Hibak Said for TV47, Nairobi.
Now, over to Wajir, where the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Felix Kuske, has expressed appreciation for an initiative taken by Tarbaj constituency in prioritizing education. In reflection of the performance of schools in the constituency during last year's KCSE examination, the MP, Hussein Bare, underscored the significant role played by his administration and the Kenya Kwanza government in enhancing security and advancing education development. They highlighted plans to bolster security, improve infrastructure such as roads, and create job opportunities in the area.
You push on, put a lot of pressure to education, na muendelee kuhakikisha kwamba mashule iko na madarasa, mashule iko na shamba yao, na mashule iwe na walimu.
Tarbaj constituency ilikuwa na shida ya usalama, na usalama inaadhiri masomo na hali ya maendeleo. Vile hii serikali imeingia, mnajua Tarbaj ni mahali iko na amani kama kwingine hata kushinda Nairobi.
Kenya's Competition Authority has made it clear that it is committed to advancing President William Ruto's government's agenda in the areas of MSMEs, digital superhighway, housing, healthcare and agriculture. Speaking at the International Competition Network workshop held here in Nairobi Thursday morning, Acting Director General of CAK, Adano Roba, stated that the current economic environment is marked by unparalleled technical breakthroughs, and there is a greater need than ever for strong competition policy and effective advocacy in the International Competition Network workshop's first plenary session, which assessed how well different agents and jurisdictions are able to do what they need to do. Have a look at this story.
We've said the consumer, who is our ultimate stakeholder,
we've saved them almost 10 billion shillings. You look, for example, in the cement industry, that was about savings of almost 4.6 billion. You look at the paint industry, that was close to $1 billion. Look at the SME space, for example, that was close to about 3 billion. So, and of course, a few other situations that we intervened in. So it is critical for us as Competition Authority to continue enforcing the Competition Act and to ensure all the players are playing within the rules.
One of our aim again is to encourage investment in the region, ease of doing business. How can we hasten the process of approving mergers, for example? And there shouldn't be a huge delay between Tanzania and Uganda and Kenya, where now by having a lengthy process, we are actually disincentivizing investment in our economy.
Now, despite their loss against league leaders Gor Mahia, the mood at the Nairobi City Stars Football Club remains unchanged. Their season objective remains the same, and as our sports reporter Duncan paid them a visit at their training camp, this is exactly the mood on the ground. He filed this report. Let's take a look.
22 matches, 37 points, 11 wins, 4 draws, and 7 losses, results that Nairobi City Stars are impressing compared to their last season's performance.
Msimu uliopita tulikuwa namba 15. Msimu huu inamaanisha nini? Beta inaweza kuwa hata namba 1, si ndio? Ama namba 2, namba 3. Sawa. So ile bado tunazingatia ni kuweza kushikilia hiyo lengo letu la msimu huu.
They are a club that creates room for the young talent, and currently the Rising Stars are leading the line for them as they remain in the 2023-2024 title race. Their next assignment is against Kariobangi Sharks.
Vijana wengi hapa ni wadogo sana, na mi personally nafurahi vile wamekuja up. Wengi hawajulikani. Ukiona mchezaji unaona huyu ni nani sasa, unaona kina Senoa, unaona kina Majaber, unaona wengi hawajui, lakini ile kazi ambayo wameamua kufanya na vile wanajituma, we as a coach unashukuru.
Coach Nicholas Muyoti remains optimistic even after losing against Gor Mahia. Their objective remains the same, not only to be in the title race, but to be better than the 2022-2023 season, echoing the fans will always believing on them.
So first ilikuwa to beat your relegation mark, of which tumepita huko kabisa. So sasa hizi tuko hapa juu, anything itakuja tutachukua hapo.
Duncan Mutua, TV47 Sports.
All right, DP World has continued its partnership with the Kenyan Junior Golf Foundation by donating a shipping container full of golf equipment on the first day of the magical open of the DP World Tour. Now, the 20-foot container was unveiled in a special ceremony today, and in the tour, which actually happened in the tournament village at Muthaiga Golf Club. It will be moved to the Junior Golf Foundation headquarters based in Nairobi, following the completion of the magical Kenya Open. Let's have a look at this story.
And this is a very special container, the second initiative from DP World. Thank you.
A really huge milestone because, as we know, many countries have junior golf foundations in them, but we were selected as Kenya as one of the beneficiaries. And now DP World, this is the first time they're giving a container to any country in the world, and they chose Kenya. So that is a huge compliment to us as Kenya and also to Junior Golf Foundation, because they can see that everything they're giving us is going to mashinani. It's going to the ground, and it's actually helping the juniors on the ground. And if we continue working this way, we can have a partner like DP World that can help us grow the game of golf in Kenya.
Make us excited on day one of this event is the handing over of this interesting container that you're seeing right behind me. This is a container that has been offered to us by the DP World Tour and the European Tour to help us in the development of Junior Golf Foundation here in Kenya. Initially, we all knew that it was very difficult to get equipment, and now we have equipment donated. You can see some sets of golf bags there. You can see balls, you can see dressing, you can see a putting surface in that container. So this donation and contribution comes along with 24,000 golf balls that were already sent earlier on, and they were presented to the Cabinet Secretary, Bona Babu Namwamba, and then he handed thousands of balls to each and every golf club in this country.
Right, that's just a snippet of what we have in store for you in Matters Sport. A little bit later on, after Insight, which is coming up right now, where we have a conversation that you don't want to miss. A little bit later on, we will have the world-famous show VAR. Our sports team is on the ground. They're ready to bring you all the absolute latest when it comes to, sporting action across all the different sports and disciplines that are available. Now, we want to have a conversation. We want to have a conversation about our justice system and the place of young people, especially young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, in that space. I mean, we have stories, horror stories of people who are stuck in remand centers. We have horror stories of people who get in trouble and have no information whatsoever on what to do about that scenario that they find themselves in. Now, we have a gentleman who has experience on this. Not only does he have experience, he actually has a passion for this thing, something that really, really pulls at his heartstrings. And he's here with us to share some of the insights that he's been able to gather in his life, both on one side and the other of the criminal justice system in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, and maybe in a moment or two, I'd like to introduce Mr. Pete Oko of Crime Sepoa. Crime Sepoa. Welcome, Pete. How are you? It's good to see you. Everything okay? Good to see you.
Good, thank you.
You're looking very good.
Oh my, it's tiring. This heat in Nairobi is just crazy.
I'm telling you.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Great.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Now, real quick, I mean, I'm sure people are hearing about this, and they saw on the poster, Crime Sepoa, Crime Sepoa. Talk to us about that. Where did the dream of Crime Sepoa begin?
The dream of Crime Sepoa, Crime Sepoa is an amalgamation of English and Kiswahili.
Right.
Crime is not cool.
Yes.
So we decided to call it Crime Sepoa because the youth actually believe Crime Sepoa. Crime is not cool. Crime does not pay. And it came from a vision I had when I was on death row in committee.
Right.
And that was a couple of years ago. And 75% of the young people in committee, young, under the age of 35.
Wow.
And so we had this call to start a lobby, by the way, because I was on death row on a wrongful conviction, and I wasn't able to move around or move out of the country, but there was this vision that we needed to do something about the number of young people getting into prison.
Just hearing that statistic is shocking.
Yeah.
Over 75% of the people in committee maximum prison are young people.
Not only committee, across the country, across the people impacted by the criminal justice system, so to speak. So those behind bars, of the 56,000 right now in prison, 75% or so are below the age of 35.
And this is the age when people are at their prime.
Most productive,
and everything.
Yeah.
What does that say about our country? What does that say about our societies? What kind of laws are we looking at?
I mean, you can look at the laws. We have very good laws in Kenya. We have a very great constitution, very progressive and everything. But what is the adherence to the law? I've just been asked right now, how come in Kenya we don't have a public defender system? And I've told the colleague who asked me, in Kenya we have the National Legal Aid Service Act. It's an act of parliament, and we have the National Legal Aid Service, where people who are disadvantaged, who can't afford legal representation, can actually get legal representation paid for by the government.
Right.
You see, remember, the Constitution says, if an injustice is likely to occur, then you should have a right to that legal representation.
Right.
But look at the funding, and I'll just ask the MPs, the parliamentarians right now, how much money in parliament have you allocated to the National Legal Aid Service?
Wow.
You know, we have to face the issues. We don't mollycoddle issues and say, you know, we have this problem. We have a wonderful constitution, we have wonderful structures, but have our MPs funded those structures to be able to serve this segment of the population that needs the services the most?
They're underrepresented.
Thank you.
Here's a question. You know, I mean, let's face it, TIK, this is Kenya.
Yeah.
There's a concern, and I want you to respond to it. Tell me if this is valid. There are people that say justice in Kenya is for those with means, or access to means, or access to networks that can lobby and fight for them. Is this true? Have you found this to be true in your experience?
I mean, to a certain extent. You know, sometimes it's about the optics and also about the perception. You could look at, let's just do stats, right? Of the people in prison right now, how many are from the high net worth individual group? The normal, ordinary Kenyan is not a purveyor of the kind of corruption cases, for example, that we've had in the country. But if you go to the major prisons today, do you have any of those people who we read about in the newspapers behind bars? I don't want to say it's about the judiciary, it's about the prosecution. That's not for it now. So that's why I'm saying it's about optics. The perception is because when you go there, the real data you'll find are actually people from disadvantaged families. That's the reality. Number one, because one of the key things we've learned, people don't know the law. Not only people from disadvantaged families, even people across the board.
Wow.
You know, so if you look at the crimes taking people to our prisons today, mostly they're sexual and gender-based violence kind of crimes. Yeah, you talk about the highest number of inmates today are in for sexual offenses, rape and defilement.
Why is this so? What's the story behind these numbers?
Now, I've just come from Thika. Sorry. I've just come from Thika where we have that serious case of rape and defilement. Defilement is of children below the age of 18. So I'll just let guys know, if you're not allowed by law and you're not supposed to have sex with a minor who's under the age of 18.
Under
the age of 18, you'll be in jail.
You'll be in jail.
Yeah.
Despite what the popular song says.
You find them in jail. So if we're just singing some songs, and it's nice you brought it, it's unfortunate that there's some songs that glorify rape, there are songs that glorify defilement, there are songs that glorify drug consumption, there are songs that glorify the negative vices, like, you know, get rich by any means possible. So if that's the culture we are building today, and we hope to have a country in 5 years, we are totally lost. We've lost it.
Now, I imagine when you're talking to people, young people particularly, about crime Sipoa, you would share your own story. I want you to talk to me and talk to our viewers about the impact of incarceration, being in prison, to a young person. If I follow your story correctly, you went to prison at around the age of, was it 28 or 29?
Yeah, 28.
Now, the people you're talking about, the people who, for example, are having sex with underage people, probably because they don't know the law or for many other reasons, they're young people.
They're also old people who can pay off.
And they're, right. So talk to me about what prison does to a young mind, to a young person. And are we actually rehabilitating, as the slogan says, or are we actually just sending people down a path of no return?
Now, one thing I'd like to say is that I'm not here to speak for any government, body or any person, anybody, but I'll speak about experiences.
Please.
When I went to prison in 1998, it was torture and punishment. You know, I saw torture, I saw punishment. Come 2003, when Uncle Moody came on board, and God bless him, I mean, one of the greatest Kenyans ever.
Wherever you are, you're a hero.
And the late President Kibaki.
Right.
When President Kibaki passed on, I remember Moody Awori sharing this story with the country and saying, you know, I was given instructions by my boss that I had to do this. So it was a decision made at the very top that this had to happen. One of it was like, prisoners are also human beings. They could have made mistakes. Some are innocently convicted. I was suffering a lot of conviction, exactly. But at the end of the day, we need to correct them and bring them out to be productive members of the society. One of the most celebrated inmates in this world is Nelson Mandela. He was in prison for 27 years.
That's right.
No one wants to talk about the fact that he was jailed for terrorism.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But by God's grace, he came out, he led his country. That was leadership. I mean, he kept the focus. Now, what I'm talking about here is, to a young person, prison is not the best of places. And don't forget, the age of criminal culpability is 9 years.
Yes, that is
so shocking. We have very young people in the children's institutions. Because, I mean, if a child has been in conflict with the law,
Please, could you just, you have more to say, could you just explain that to our viewers? When you say that the age of criminal culpability, criminal responsibility is, 8 or 9? 9.
9.
What does that mean? It means a 9-year-old can actually be charged for a crime?
Exactly. That's why we have the children's court.
Goodness.
So a 9-year-old who commits a crime can actually be charged and then committed by the children's court. Of course, the court considers the best interest of the child.
Okay.
So the sentencing or the imprisonment of this child will be a last resort.
But isn't that number somewhat lower than, I imagine, compared to other countries?
You could consider that until you meet a 10-year-old with a gun.
Oh, wow.
Then you'll have your second thoughts about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's something about, it's not about age, it's about how we've cultured the young people. What are we constantly exposing them to? And how does that affect them? Because going to prison, I can tell you one thing. I have this joke with my friends in the criminal justice system. The police can only keep you for 24 hours. After 24 hours, they have to take you to court. Right? You're done.
Okay.
The prison officer will be with you for the rest of that time.
Right.
These are the guys who have to walk that journey with you. They have to understand you. They have to help you reset and think positively so that when you get back home, you become a productive member of the society.
Right.
But how do we regard our prison officers? We regard them as those people who are on the other side. We don't support them.
Right.
So many times you'll find even prison officers, and that's a support I need everyone to bring on board. Our prison officers, our police officers need mental health support because they're dealing with trauma. They're dealing with traumatic, broken people.
Exactly.
Life in prison. Every day. They wake up every day. That's their life. That's their JD. If you look at the young people, you asked me about the experience back there.
Yes, please. Yes.
Losing your freedom for one day, that's the worst punishment you'll ever get. So multiply it with the number of days or the number of hours or the number. Just taking away that freedom means the world to practically everyone. So the moment you find yourself in that situation, because you could find yourself in that situation, how do you handle it? There are many rehabilitative tools in the prison. There are schools right now, for example, the ones now we are talking about, the 9, 10-year-olds, when they go to the approved schools or the children's homes, for example, they can still go to school. You know, they're under the children's office and they'll still be taken care of, and those who want to go to school can actually go to school. If you go to the girls' Boston Institution hosts children between the age of 14 and 18. There's one for girls and 2 for boys. Shikusa Boston.
In the whole country?
In the whole country, the only 3.
Wow.
So there's one for girls here in Kamiti, it's called Kamai Girls Boston. And then there's Shimolatewa and Shikusa in Western. Now these 3 take boys between the age of 14 and 18. They are sentenced to a maximum of 3 years for different offenses. And with good behavior, after 1 year, they can be released on license.
Oh.
And being released on license means they're being released under the care of the probation and aftercare department, which does a great job. And then now even well-wishers have come on board and they can support these kids. And I'm asking guys, I mean, these kids need our support, they need our love. We know where they come from.
Right.
Not some of the best of places.
Right.
But they need our support because some of them are very bright.
You know, actually, on that point, let me talk to us a little bit about the process of reintegration and maybe some of the gaps there and what solutions you could propose. Because I'm thinking, if somebody is coming back to the same community that produced them, perhaps a community that has the same pressures, push and pull, that actually created or availed the criminal element or enabled the criminal element in this person is coming back, obviously with a different mindset. Talk to us about that process, you know, of reintegrating back into society. I read a particular report that was quite damning. It said lots of people want to actually go back to prison because they feel unwelcome. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about where they come from.
I'll tell you from my experience. Please. No one wants to go back to prison. Some of these reports are cliche. And sometimes I find them tailored to suit a certain narrative. No one wants to go back to prison. No one. I can tell you that for free. There's always been a mistake about, you know, someone who's been arrested, released on bail, then they commit another offense, or they're caught in 1, 2, 3, they go back. And there's someone who served time, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Those guys don't want to go back to jail. They've learned it, they know it. They want to start their lives afresh and rebuild it. Just like I said, most of them were young. Maybe some want to start their families and move on. majority, as you talk about reintegration, for us at Crime Power, we have the Prison and Reintegration Project, which we call it Phoenix, rising up again.
Right, from the ashes.
Yeah, from the ashes. So what does that mean? We don't call those who come from prison ex-prisoners, ex-convicts. No, we call them returning citizens. They've been in a place, they're coming back and they want to start their lives afresh. I can tell you one thing for free. These guys are very productive, number one. Reintegration starts from the day you are arrested.
Wow.
The prisons department now have accepted it, and they're working with partners to ensure that reintegration from the moment you're arrested. Maybe you didn't have connection with the family. Maybe there are things in the community that made you get into conflict with the law. Maybe you've been separated from your family. The reintegration process starts from day one. For us, our integration process, that because we run programs in 16 prisons now, maybe 22 by the end of the year. The key thing for us is what's the connection between this person and the place they left. Most of the guys in prison didn't commit crimes in their homes if they committed crimes. Not in their home areas, no. Somewhere very far. So basically the people at home have no issue with you. Some might not even know that you committed this crime.
Right.
So the key for us is when this person gets out, how ready are they? If I show you, if you get to our website, crimesipwa.org, you'll see a story of David who left prison the other day after 20 years.
Right.
He's down in the village cleaning people off their jiggers. I mean, you wouldn't expect someone who's gone through 20 years of wrongful conviction to be serving the community, mentoring, shaving guys who are mentally disturbed, you know, and just doing the best that he could. These are people with a clean heart and they want to serve. So are we giving them the opportunity? What kind of support? They need support when they come out.
Right.
What kind of support systems do we have?
Right.
Sometimes it's not monetary, but just, I mean, churches are playing a big role. Friends are playing a big role now.
Right.
Families have accepted and are, you know, helping the families, the people pick up. But as you started by saying, most come from very poor families.
Right.
How do we help them pick up from the ashes?
Wow, I'll tell you this. This is a massive conversation. We have had, I'm afraid, it looks like the time we have is a drop in the ocean. But I'm glad we've been able to spark a conversation, and I'm glad we've been able to actually give our audiences some insight. Pete, as we wind up, I'm actually completely out of time. There's your camera. I'd like you to send a message to Kenyans from your heart. You've got a few seconds. There's your camera right there. Talk to Kenyans.
Okay, dear Kenyans, I'm speaking to you from TV47 studios. My name is Peter Oko from Crime Power. We work with young people and we know they need your support. Crime is easy to eradicate in this country if we give everyone equal opportunity, equal chances, and also teach people the law. Many people actually break the law because they don't know the law. So at Crime Power, what we decided to do, every Tuesday and Thursday, we are having online classes for free. Free legal awareness, you can join us, you can learn what we do, but above all, wherever you are, it's our duty. If people are breaking the law, if people are selling drugs in your community, it's for you to speak out. Our kids are suffering because of drugs, alcohol abuse, and the people who are selling these things, we know them. You know, so, and also the people at the very top. The young people want to emulate you. It's the model that, how we are modeling our lives. If we are modeling our lives around integrity, they'll follow that. If we model our lives around things that actually the quick fixes, they'll follow that. It's our choice to know the kind of country we want. But the young people, you guys are leading this country and I support you fully. God bless you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, and I will not. May the good Lord bless you. Have a good night, and thank you for choosing us to inform you this evening on Daily Report and Insight tonight. Pete, we need to have you back again.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
God bless you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good night,
Thank you.
people. Thank you. That was great.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.